All right. I do want to go back because I definitely don't want to gloss over your background. I think it's something, I don't know, you may get sick of talking about it, but it's, to me, it's something where I can look at and I can say, listen, Tarl's been through this and I have no excuses. And that's why I think that there's a lot of value that people hear it, because it's just, people will have like tough times in their life, but it's probably nothing like what you've been through. And so if you don't mind digging more into it, let's start with what are some lessons that you learned growing up that you've been able to apply as an adult, that, and it may be just don't do some of these things, but what are some of those lessons?
That's a good question. The biggest one, and I think I hinted at it earlier, is we have a decision in life. Every one of those people that did something wrong knew at some point it was wrong, right? I mean, at some point they had to stop and look at it and say, okay, I know this is the wrong decision and I'm still going to make it. And so accountability is a big one with me. The other rule I always have is like, just don't hurt kids, right? Like I can deal with adults fighting. I can deal with all of that. But when it comes to kids, I'm almost overly protective of them. You know, and again, we either become the things that we hate or we live on to ensure that they don't exist. Yeah. And so
I think that's it seems, I think it's obvious to most people, but some it's not, you know. If I remember correctly, because you and I, was it in Scottsdale that we sat down?
Vegas.
No, it was Vegas. It was Vegas that we sat and we were talking. Wow, it feels like so long ago, but we had a lot of fun out in Vegas.
Yes.
I think it was 8 years old that you were kind of out and with your brother. Is that what?
Yeah.
What it was?
So I'll give you the thumbprint version.
Well, and I don't want to gloss over. I think some of the details are important. So
yeah. So my biological father was very, very abusive. In fact, one of my earliest memories is like him looking for me to beat me and then beating my mom to a pulp on her front porch. While I was hiding underneath it. And to this day, I still remember looking up and just seeing her bloodied as she's staring down through the cracks at me, knowing right where I'm at. And then when I was probably 3 or 4, they got divorced. And then a family friend kidnapped me after the proceedings, took me to California. I was there for about a year and a half before I was recovered by police. And then my mom brought us here to live with her and my then stepdad. He had severe PTSD and his own set of issues and was involved in a lot of illegal activity. And
what was that from, the PTSD, if you know?
He was a Vietnam vet. And so his job was to go in tunnels and clear them out. And so I can only imagine the horrors he faced. But he never really dealt with his issues. He just self-medicated them with a lot of drugs. And then from there, at about 8 years old, my mom got thyroid cancer. And so she got a thyroid taken out, and to resolve her energy loss, she decided to start using methamphetamines. And so from there, I became homeless between her rehabs here and in Nevada, lived on the streets, spent most of my 6th grade year in elementary living out of a tent out at Lost Dutchman State Park. And then this summer, after 6th grade, a local youth pastor was like, hey, I've got some room. Why don't you come stay with us? So I stayed with them, and things started to go well. And then he found out he had hepatitis and was like, I won't have the energy. I got to focus on my kids. Like, that's not fair to you. So we got to find somewhere else for you. And so that's where Sunshine Acres, the children's home, came in. So I went there, was raised there. Like I said, had my own issues throughout my teens. Like, I was the child who my dorm parents would say, hey, don't do this. Here's the consequence. And I'd go, well, it's cost-benefit analysis. It's worth the punishment. I'll see you later. And then at 18, started working 2 jobs. 19, figured I wasn't going anywhere. Joined the military, got married to my high school sweetheart. Went to Korea, went to Sadr City, Al Najaf, Iraq, all that fun stuff. Got out of the military, was out for about 3 or 4 months, and my first wife had OD'd herself on medicine. About a year later, on the dot, her sister committed suicide, left a suicide note to me. And then finally recovered from that. Met my girl's mom, got married to her, went through law school, get out, find out, and I'm not going to get into it in case my girls ever watch. I don't, when they're adults, I'll get into that portion of it,
Sure.
but I protect them from it. So anyhow, went through all of that with their mom, lost custody of them for like 6 months, dealing with a bunch of false allegations. Finally got them back, was single for about 2 years, and then 2 or 3 years, and met my now wife, who convinced me that as much as I love my single life, I loved her more. And so been married happily, and now I've got, between my 2 and her 3, we've got 5 preteen and teenage girls. So that's its own nightmare.
Yeah, yeah, I bet.